Hi, so I want to talk to you a little bit about a common thread I see in a lot of early essays, which is that students are a little bit afraid to really directly say what they're trying to prove or what they're trying to convey to their readers. We get the idea from somewhere that good writing is about subtly implying things instead of being really clear and to the point. And perhaps that's because in fiction that might be true, that it's more interesting to artfully use your subtext um, to make meaning when you're writing fiction. But in nonfiction, or at least in the type of nonfiction that we're writing, that's the opposite of what you want. You want to be as clear and to the point as you possibly can be. And you want to be clear that you're talking about a text. You're not talking about real people or a real story. You're talking about a constructed text. So, what do I mean by that? Let's start from the top with our thesis. Your thesis should tell me in as clear terms as possible, as directly as possible, what are you going to prove and what details in the text are going to help you prove it. You don't need to get into like the exact minutia of, this symbol and this exact line for the most part, but you can say, for example, in comparing this portion of the text and this portion of the text, it becomes clear that blah, blah, blah. You can say that, a careful analysis of this monologue shows that blah, blah, blah. Okay, so like really talking about a specific, what specific type of evidence you're going to be using, what we're looking at. Remembering that the text is a construction from the author. The other important part of that is transitions. So throughout your writing, you need to tell me as your reader or whatever imagined audience you have what you want me to make of the evidence you are providing me. And you need to do that before and after you show me that evidence. So you want to tell me what to make of things. Your transitions are sort of like signposts. So you'll say, in contrast, this quote, blah, 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 blah. Or another piece of evidence that demonstrates the same thing is blah, 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 blah. So I'm not left to interpret anything on my own. I should never be interpreting something on my own as the reader. You're teaching me how to interpret the evidence you're giving me. You don't want to let me have my own analysis, nor should I be left to analyze your writing. You should be directing me towards exactly what you want me to think. Which brings me to how we talk about the evidence itself in our warrants. I frequently see students bring up a line and then tell me what that line implies. And they're doing a little more than summarizing, but a little less than analyzing. And what the difference is that they're never referring directly to the language of the line they've quoted. They're not talking about the specific words or the specific syntax or whatever allusion is there. They're saying like, oh, this implies that, blah, blah, blah. Or they'll say the diction implies blah, blah, blah. And that's great, but you need to say this word, this word in one of, alabaster connotes purity, coldness, whatever. Okay, so like be really specific about exactly what in your evidence leads you to believe that it means what you say it believes, what you say it means. And sometimes that's hard because we don't even know, but that's what the close reading and the analysis is. That's where all the behind the scenes work that you're doing comes into play. You need to figure that out. If you can't answer that question for yourself, how can you convince me of it? So sometimes when we're writing, if we get to a spot where we're not quite sure why we think that, whatever it is we're proving, we need to think, okay, why do I think that? And take the time to ask and answer that question so that that can be part of your paper. That's the level of very careful step-by-step explanation I'm looking for in these